Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand as Ruben Amorim puts Marcus Rashford up for sale. Not only Ruben Amorim, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has given Ruben Amorim the power to get rid of anybody he wants, and the first name is Marcus Rashford. He could leave Manchester United as early as January. You're going to be talking about the news coming out from the Jamie Jackson article. Some really bold things coming out. Player power, say goodbye to it. Marcus Rashford has had a lot of power at Manchester United for a long time. Ruben Amorim has decided to put him up for sale, according to Jamie Jackson. I'm going to speak about all the details of that and why Sir Jim Ratcliffe agrees with it and is giving Ruben Amorim the ultimate power, and also why Alejandro Garnacho, even though he was also left out of the squad at the weekend, they feel like there can be a comeback for Alejandro Garnacho. They feel like it's not the end of the road for Alejandro Garnacho and he can survive this with Ruben Amorim, whereas Marcus Rashford, at 27 years old, on one of the highest wages at Manchester United and having this reoccurring problem, they feel like it's time to say goodbye. Time is up. Get your comments in, get your thoughts in. Also, some news about Harry Maguire potentially being offered a new contract from Manchester United. Is that the right thing to do? He's been playing fantastically well, but he is 31 years old. He hasn't been able to complete back-to-back 90 minutes so far in the Premier League this season. Did his first one against Man City? Can he complete 2 matches in a row? Injuries have been an issue with Harry Maguire recently. Is it the right thing to offer him a new deal, or should Manchester United cut ties, move on and invest into a younger talent? And I also just want to quickly speak about the derby. I'm on absolute cloud 9 today, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are. I've been going through some stats. I've been going through the starting 11 that played. And I think some people, aren't giving Manchester United as much credit as they deserve. We held City at the Etihad. Okay, yes, City are not the City that have been winning 4 titles in a row, and they are in a bad run, but it's still the Premier League title holders at the Etihad, and we played a really good game. We played a team game, and there's some crucial reasons why Ruben Amorim really does look like he's got his foot in the door now, and I'm super excited for his managerial period at Manchester United because the foundations are there. The quality might not be there. The end product might not be there. We might need to level up in terms of our starting 11 in terms of quality, but the foundations are there and we're starting to play football the Ruben Amorim way, and there's a lot to take from that. So get your comments in, get voting in the poll. I'm going to start the poll off while I speak about Marcus Rashford. Should Manchester United give Harry Maguire a new deal? Start off with that one, get voting in the poll, but let's talk about the breaking news, and it is Marcus Rashford. I know a lot of people have some strong opinions on this one, so get your comments in, and I'm going to say my honest opinions on Marcus Rashford as well, because I think it's only right. I have had a growing frustration with Marcus Rashford for a number of years, I'm going to be honest with you. I used to absolutely love the player. Right now, I am in complete agreement with him being sold because I don't think the attitude's right. I don't think the behaviour's right. I've always said he's got the talent, like most people say. Ricky doesn't think he has the talent. I think he does have the talent. It wouldn't surprise me if he went elsewhere and tore it up, because I feel like if he actually put in the work and had the right attitude and did the right behaviours and gave everything every single day, he could be a top player. But how long do you wait? And my waiting time was over quite a while ago, to be honest with you. And Ruben Amorim, players might have been able to hide behind Erik ten Hag because of the whole Sancho situation and his reputation for poor man management. Nobody can hide behind Ruben Amorim. He's got the full backing of Ineos. He's got the full backing of the fan base. And if he sees through you and your behaviour, he's going to call it out and the fan base are going to be behind him. There's no one to blame. There's nowhere to hide. You have to look in the mirror and say, am I giving 100% for this football club? Am I doing the right things every single day? And people can get online and they can say you have an agenda. They can say you're picking on one player. I've never ever had an agenda or picked on one player in my life. I criticise based on what I see. And what a lot of people have seen with Marcus Rashford clearly is the case, because Ruben Amorim didn't leave him out of the Manchester United squad for no reason. He left him out and he spoke about it. He said the way you engage with other teammates, how you eat, how you dress, what you're doing off the pitch, but also how you play as well. He named dropped quite a few different things where you can read into it a little bit and figure out where he's coming from. Obviously, you've got to bring Garnacho into the conversation, but people are going to hold Garnacho and Rashford to a different standard because Rashford knows what it takes. He has done it on the biggest stage at the highest level. He's 27. He's a senior player. He's been throughout the academy from a very young age. He's one of the highest paid players, if not the highest paid player, I think him and Casemiro, at the football club. He wears the number 10. People expect a lot. Alejandro Garnacho's young, and you can make a few more excuses for him. Marcus Rashford, the excuses have run out. We've had the Belfast incident. We've had the clubbing after the Manchester derby and losing incident. We've had off-the-pitch murmurs. We've had him dropped out of the Wolves 11 because of punctuality issues. We've had things before. People's cups are full. With Alejandro Garnacho, granted, he's not done what Marcus Rashford's done for the football club in terms of the number of goals he's scored and, you know, the amount of games that Marcus Rashford has played for Manchester United. But he is a young player. He's 20 years old. He's got room to develop. He's got time to learn. There's a little bit more leeway. With Marcus Rashford, the cup is full. So it seems that way with Ruben Amorim as well. But let's bring in the quotes from this article while you get your comments in. And let's get into the first one. And it is from Jamie Jackson that Marcus Rashford has been marginalised and put up for sale by Manchester United as part of a cultural reboot deemed necessary to transform the club after the standards were allowed to decline for more than a decade. First thing I will say on this is you cannot blame one player for a decade's decline. So many people have to look in the mirror. The Glazers have to look in the mirror. Hierarchy at the club has to look in the mirror. Multiple other players have been a part of this as well. You cannot pin it all on Marcus Rashford just because he's getting a lot of stick. I disagree with that. I think Marcus Rashford is a player that's lost his way, and it's easy to put all the blame onto him. You cannot do that. What you can do is look at him as an individual, and it's what Mark has been saying for quite a long time, sacrificial lamb. That is what sometimes it takes to change the culture at a football club. It doesn't mean it's all that player's fault. It doesn't mean it's just them. But Marcus Rashford is a senior player. Just about probably a year ago even, seemed untouchable at Manchester United, unsellable. He's from the academy. He's come up the ranks at Manchester United. He holds a lot of power in that football club. He's the poster boy of the football club. He wears the number 10. He's on 360 grand a week, apparently, according to this article. I know it's over 300 grand a week, definitely. It would be huge to that dressing room and to that club if Marcus Rashford was sold under this new manager. And it would create a shock. It would send shockwaves around the football club that absolutely nobody is safe. And it's absolutely true what Ruben Amorim said last night. There is people at this football club losing their jobs. The standards have to be high. I know that there's people at that football club that are just on the standard living wage losing their jobs and they're absolutely gutted. Marcus Rashford's on over 300 grand a week. If you're not putting the standards in, Ruben Amorim's not going to accept it. You know, there was excuses when it came to him under Erik ten Hag. It's a new manager now. There's nowhere to hide. Very, very quickly, it went from the first training session under Ruben Amorim, top training session posted over social media, to now he's been left out the squad, and there's big waves across the club that he is up for sale and as early as January. When I was in the Czech Republic midweek, I was speaking to some journalists after the press conference, and I won't name them just in case they don't want it out there. And near enough every single one of them was saying they have heard through good sources that Marcus Rashford can leave in January. They want to sell him. They're just worried that nobody's going to come in for him because of the wage that he's on. And they're willing to go to a cut price. It was put out there, 40 million is what Manchester United want. I've heard that they'd probably take 25 just to offset the wages and get him off the books at this point. It's a sad situation. It really is a sad situation because I had high hopes for Marcus Rashford. Wayne Rooney said it. He could have gone on and been Manchester United's top goal scorer. He had that in him. But somewhere along the lines, I don't know if it's money, I don't know if it's a massive contract, I don't know if it's, you know, the people around him. It's gone wrong. It has gone wrong. And he's not reached the level that he should have reached. And that's really sad. It's really sad. I feel that same way about Anthony Martial. I thought Anthony Martial was super talented. I thought he had the world at his feet. I thought Anthony Martial had the ability to go on and be whatever he wanted to be, but he never reached that level. But he had the talent and he had the ability there. And for Rashford is kind of followed in the same direction. It's not injuries that took a hold of him, but something's not right. You can tell by his body language. You can tell by the way he is on the pitch. I mean, when I watched him in Czech Republic against Pilsen, I was actually worried about him, like genuinely worried about him, because something just didn't seem right. And I hope he is okay behind the scenes. Of course we do. But Ruben Amorim's come in, and it's taken him a very short amount of time to realise who's up for it and who's not. Garnacho, I don't know what's gone on, but reportedly that seems salvageable. Marcus Rashford doesn't seem salvageable, according to reports. Get in the comments what you think. And Sir Ratcliffe is backing it as well. We've got a lot of people saying Martial was clear of Rashford. I think talent-wise, Martial was genuinely clear. Like, Martial is one of the most talented footballers I've seen in recent times. Like, ability-wise, he just didn't show it enough. And that is really, really unfortunate. Enjoy Writing says, what a win, Beth. Yeah, what a win. Fantastic win. Let's not take away from that. And that's what happens when you play as a team. And this is another thing I would say. I don't want to go off on loads of different tangents. But not only Amad technically and just his footballing ability was top class, his work ethic from the minute that game kicked off to the minute it ended was second to none. The reason we got that first goal is because he's always working. His awareness, his work ethic, his runs, his intelligence. His work ethic is a big reason as to why Manchester United won that game. That spreads around the team like wildfire. I expect every single Manchester United forward player to put in the work that Amad does from minute one to the minute ends. And I'm sorry, Marcus Rashford hasn't done that. He hasn't. Alejandro Garnacho, I actually do think he works hard, but he's been guilty of maybe not having the strength that's needed. Amad has the strength. But he is an example to every single forward player how we should be acting and playing as a team to win. Vinny Red One says, the thing is, Garnacho has done nothing and he's already like this. I really want to know what's happened with Alejandro Garnacho behind the scenes because, I mean, I don't know. But I doubt it's anything to do with Garnacho going out clubbing because I just never have seen him as that sort of like character. Might be an ego thing. It might be the way he's interacted with players behind the scenes. We don't know. We have got some news about the leaks that we will bring out a little bit later in the show, so stay tuned for that. That kind of clears Alejandro Garnacho. I Am Iris says, has to happen if we want to get any closer to a title. Rashford is 27, Amad is 22, but yet Amad is setting the standards to a Manchester boy. But you've got to remember, and this is why I say you really do have to keep players humble, keep them grounded, because Marcus Rashford, when he burst onto the scene, looked incredible. He had some fantastic times for Manchester United. He didn't just walk onto the scene, get the number 10 and get 350 grand a week contract through moping around the pitch and not scoring goals and not putting the work in. He started out putting the work in and scoring goals and scoring in Manchester derbies. But somewhere along the lines, it went wrong. And this is what happens if you give too much too quick. And money as well. I think money is a big part of this. You know, is there a motivation there for Rashford on that much money? There should be. There absolutely should be. And, you know, there's some players that are on massive amounts of money and still produce every single week. What went wrong, we don't know. But I think maybe surrounding yourself with the wrong people, making the wrong decisions multiple times in a row. Lifestyle. And I know footballers can have a life and they should be able to have a life. But just look at the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Mohamed Salah, Lionel Messi. Do you think they're going out clubbing on Sundays, you know, in Manchester? Do you think they're going out for a weekend in Belfast, you know, clubbing all weekend? Of course you can have your time out. I get that. But the standards of the way you live as an athlete. Look at Bruno Fernandes. Does he do that? No. Like, the top players don't do that. And all these little things do end up adding up. Anyway, moving on to kind of the cultural reset at Manchester United. One thing I will say is when we speak about sacrificial lambs, Arteta did it with Ozil and Aubameyang. I thought Ozil was a ridiculously talented player. I thought Aubameyang was very good. Arsenal fans, you know, they were their star players, Aubameyang and Ozil. And Arteta didn't seem to like their power and the weight that they held in the dressing room. And they were on big wages and he got rid of them and the club backed him. That was a big culture shift at Arsenal. Sometimes these things have to happen. You can't blame one player, but when there's a sacrificial lamb, and it's a huge player, and it's one that you thought would never be sold in a million years, it does send a culture shock across the whole football club, and it sets the tone. Anyway, moving on to the next quote from this article. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is intense. There can be no passengers, and he's ready to cut his losses on Rashford if there are suitors in January. A willingness to take short-term pain in pursuit of long-term gain was also behind Dan Ashworth's exit as sporting director after 5 months, when United had paid $5 million to bring him in from Newcastle. It goes on to say that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Dan Ashworth's working relationship was untenable, and they had to cut ties. Even though it was a mutual agreement, that working relationship could not continue. They clearly had different ideas. The rumour is that Dan Ashworth wanted to go for a Southgate or an Eddie Howe. Omar Barada really pushed for Amorim. Sir Jim Ratcliffe was really impressed with Amorim when he met him and spoke to him about the job. So Dan Ashworth felt like he wasn't really involved. They butted heads in business. There was different ideas. Too many cooks in the kitchen doesn't always work out. You need one master chef and like the sous chefs that are helping out. It's a team game. It is a team game. So Dan Ashworth stuff, we can put that to bed. It just didn't work out. Was it embarrassing? Yes. Would I rather get rid of him if it wasn't working than just stick with it to save face? Absolutely. I think it's the right decision, and I back Ineos on that. If it wasn't working, you had to cut your losses, but you've got to learn from that. And I think that was an indication that Ineos, they're not going to get everything right, and they are learning on the job. But I do think their heart is in the right place in terms of wanting this football club to win. I don't agree with everything they've done, ticket prices, etc. I've said my piece on that. I don't agree with that. And I do think certain decisions we've made have been a little bit embarrassing, and we have made the wrong ones in times. But I do believe the heart is in the right place to get this football club back to where it needs to be. And I think it's super important, because we haven't had this at the club, that Ruben Amorim is given the full backing. And that is what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is doing. If Ruben Amorim has actually gone and said Marcus Rashford needs to go, which I think has happened, by the way, that's just my opinion. It's nothing built on what I've been told or anything like that. There's other things, there's things that you hear, but the only thing is here's my opinion. I think it's very strange that in the last couple of weeks there's been strong articles and rumours coming out that Marcus Rashford's up for sale. This is the price Man United want for him. At the same time, Ruben Amorim's come in, got to know his squad. Rashford's been dropped from the starting 11. Now he's out of the matchday squad. I do think Ruben Amorim said that, he probably needs to be sold. I believe this article from Jamie Jackson. But the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is allowing it, and Ineos is allowing this, and they are getting on board with it, and they are backing Amorim, and they understand they can't be any passengers, and everybody needs to be pulling in the same direction. Everybody needs to be given 100%, and we've got to listen to this manager. It's just music to my ears, because in the past, managers have wanted to shift players on for the greater good of the dressing room, the greater good of the team, and it's not been allowed to happen. Jose Mourinho is a prime example. Eric Ten Hag probably, had things that we don't know about that he wasn't allowed to do. I think Ruben Amorim is genuinely the first manager that has been given full power, because he is Ineos' guy. And there's nowhere to hide now. Nowhere to hide. Because Ruben Amorim hasn't got any agendas. He's not come in to wind anybody up. He's come to make this football club win, and he is said right from the start, you get on board with me, you give me your all, I will protect you 100%. If you aren't doing the right things, there is no place for you in my team. We'll see what the story develops on Garnacho, but on Rashford, it does kind of feel like all these things have added up. It could be the end of the road. And it's sad, because I never wanted it to end like this. I wanted Marcus Rashford to fulfill his career at Manchester United, score many, many goals for the club and be successful. I wanted that. But at this moment in time, it just feels like it's too far gone. The one thing for me, though, and get your comments in, is where does he go? Where does he actually go? Who is coming in for Marcus Rashford on 365 grand a week, which is what the report is saying? On over 300 grand a week anyway, who is coming in for Marcus Rashford? Because I have been told categorically, it might not be true, but this is what I've been told by certain journalists, that PSG are not going to go back in for him, no matter what the story is. That's not their game model anymore. They're investing in a different road, and they're not going to go out and buy Marcus Rashford. I think they were also slightly frustrated in terms of the way everything went down with Marcus Rashford getting a new contract at Manchester United. PSG was maybe used a little bit in that negotiation. This happens in football. But the interest was there in him, 100%, but now they're not going to go for him. So that kind of rules them out. Any team in the Premier League going to go for him? Would you want to sell him to the Premier League? I personally wouldn't want to sell him into the Premier League because I think it gives you that risk of him going somewhere else, doing really well, and it kind of bites you back. Chelsea are potentially a contender that could pay them wages, but they don't need him. They've got Neto, they've got Sancho, they've got Madueke, they've got Palmer. He could play up front for him, but why when they've got Nicholas Jackson and Nkunku and they're probably going to go for an out-and-out target man striker? Don't see that. Arsenal, Martinelli needs improvement. They also need a striker, but I picture them going for like a top-tier striker like an Isak, not a Rashford. And I don't think he really fits what Arteta's trying to do there at Arsenal. I don't see anyone else in the Premier League going for him. Abroad, there's rumours that Bayern Munich might go for him with Sane potentially leaving. That could be a direction. But Manchester United will have to take a low fee for him if they do sell him because of his wages. They will have to take a cut price deal. And this just shows in football, Marcus Rashford a couple of years ago was probably worth 100 million, at least. Now, Manchester United are probably selling for 25 million just to offset the wage. And that is where we're at. It's still 25 million pure profit because he's come from the academy. You get the wage off your books and it's a fresh start for both Marcus and the club. And you do have to look at Marcus as well. You want him to enjoy his football. You want him to succeed. If Marcus Rashford leaves Manchester United, I want him to go and fulfil the talent that he has. I want him to go and smash it and do well. I will be rooting for him to whatever team he goes for. I'll be rooting for him as long as it's not against Manchester United. I absolutely will. And I always will because you do have that emotional connection to Rashford. But it doesn't seem like he's enjoying it at Manchester United based off performances, and it doesn't seem like it's working out for him. I mean, got some more super chats coming in and keep your votes going on the poll. Enjoy Writing says, loan him out and pay 3/4 of the wage, Italy. We're not loaning him. No loans. He has to be sold if he's going to go. I Am Irish says, surrounded by Pogba, Lingard, Sancho, lazy players. Alex Hale says, Garnacho isn't directly the leak, but Roberto still. I think, honestly, there's so many Twitter rumours. I don't believe Garnacho and his brother are the leak, personally, but I don't. We've got more news on that coming out of the show. Don't believe everything you read on Twitter is what I would say. Space Oddie says, Ahmad is our real star, got scrutinised under Ten Hag, didn't act like Sancho, didn't lose his head like Garnacho or become lazy like Rashford. One thing I will say is Ahmad's resilience and his personality is just exactly what you would want. The work ethic is off the charts and he has had to come through adversity. Imagine having the talent that Ahmad has and not being fit for that long. It would drive you insane. How he managed to stay professional, and he did, and work hard every single training session, credit to the guy. Everyone should be like this though. He's had to go on loan spells to Sunderland, to Rangers did he go to. He's had to come through a lot. And it shows in the way he fights for every minute on that football pitch that he doesn't take a minute of it for granted. You know, sometimes you get comfortable and players can take things for granted. Ahmad has had to fight tooth and nail to get into that team, so every single minute he's enjoying it, he's loving it, he's fighting for the shirt. Sometimes if you take something for granted, you know, you've got to wake yourself up. It's like everyone's got something different that they think about. Sometimes I find myself complaining about certain things, and I think to myself, 5 years ago, if you told me I'd be doing what I'm doing and reporting on Manchester United, which I absolutely love to do, I would have been absolutely over the moon. And you should take that with you every single day, and you have to remind yourself of that. And I feel like sometimes, you know, players, and it's sad that this happens, but maybe if you're on a massive wage, you're in the starting 11 no matter how you perform every single week, you do begin to take that for granted, and it starts to show. And then next thing you know, you've let your standards slip and a new manager's in and there's no way back. But yeah, you've got to appreciate everything in life and understand, you know, the opportunities that you have, and always remember you've got to work hard to maintain that position. The hard work doesn't stop. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. He's done everything you need to do in the game and he's still I still every single day probably training harder than most of them Manchester United players, if not all of them. And look at what he's done in his career. It's so important to be the best. You've got to work to be the best. It goes on to say, this article, Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho were dropped by Ruben Amorim from the squad for Sunday's derby win at Manchester City, whereas a way back is regarded possible for Alejandro Garnacho. The feeling at the club is Marcus Rashford's time is up. And this is the big quote. Ruben Amorim has decided Marcus Rashford needs to leave Manchester United in the push to engineer a shift in the culture throughout the club for football and non-football staff. Ruben Amorim. That's why the title says Ruben Amorim demands Rashford's sale. This article is naming Ruben Amorim as the driving force behind Marcus Rashford needing to leave Manchester United. And that says a lot because he's worked with him now for a number of weeks. I know there's been people and fans thinking, there's been all sorts of rumours, and I've always shut them down. Managers are told they have to play certain players for a certain amount of minutes. Rashford has a thing in his clause where he has to play. Bruno has a thing in his clause where he has to play, etc., etc. That's never been the case, and I've never thought it's been the case. Have certain players held a lot of power at that club behind the scenes? Yes. Have certain players got away with things for a long time that are unacceptable behind the scenes? Yes. Has every single player held themselves to the highest standard, professional standard at Manchester United for a long period of time? No. That is why it's one of the reasons why the club is failing. It's not just the squad, it's everything. It's the culture at the club. If you are the biggest club in the world, or one of the biggest and the biggest in England, and you want to be the most successful, if you want to be the most successful club, you don't just get it because you're called Manchester United. You don't just get it because you've got talent. You have to work and hold the highest standards every single day. I'm not just talking about the players, I'm talking about the manager, the staff, everyone. Physios, everyone behind the scenes. And I think the majority of departments at Manchester United for a decade have been underperforming and failing and not working at the highest possible standard. And if you don't work at the highest possible standard, you don't achieve the highest standard. And that's where we've been at. So I think a lot of things need to change and standards need to improve. And Erik ten Hag was the start of that cultural shift. He recognised it. He did recognise it. He didn't have the full power to change it. Ruben Amorim looks like he's Ineos's guy. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's recognised it. Ineos have recognised it. He's been given the power to change it. And that's exactly what you want. Diogo Dalot spoke after the game yesterday saying Ruben Amorim's been very clear. You have to work to the highest standard. You have to suffer. It's not easy. It's not easy getting out of bed every single day, going training to the hardest possible that you can, doing the recovery, having to miss out on things because you're an athlete at the end of the day and you've got to live a certain lifestyle. It's not easy. And people say, well, I'd do it for 300 grand a week, I'd do it for the money. And of course, the amount these footballers are being paid is off the scale. But you still have to put in the work, and not everyone is prepared to do so. You've got to do it if you want to be the most successful. And I think Marcus Rashford is an example of someone who hasn't done that, just based off what you've seen, what you've heard, and also, Ruben Amorim leaving him out of the squad. He's not done it for no reason. Same with Alejandro. You can't just exclude Alejandro Garnacho. You do have to look at why he's been left out. I don't know if more news will come out on that in the future, but this article is obviously talking about Rashford being sold. It goes on to say Manchester United would take a cut price offer for Rashford. A move in January would be ideal, though his salary of 365 grand a week means only a few clubs could afford him. 365 grand a week performing the way he has done it's going to be hard to shift. What I will say is his name does hold weight. And he has proved that he can perform. A club might want to take a chance on a fresh start with him, but we would have to sell him for a cut price. Get your comments in, please, and let me just see the polls on Harry Maguire. I'll get onto that in a second. Joy Writings put a few super chats in here saying we might sell him for more if we loan him first. I don't think Manchester United would do a loan for Marcus Rashford. I think it would be a straight sale. Let me see, I'm trying to get some chats in, but they're all coming in so quickly. People in the chat are saying it's not 365 grand a week, it is 325 grand a week. This article is saying 365 grand a week. I don't know if it's ever actually been specified what Rashford's wage is, but anything over 300 grand a week is still way too much, and it's still going to be hard to shift. And that's the situation with Marcus Rashford. Get your thoughts on it, get your comments in. It's also coming out here that when assessing Amorim's candidacy after Erik ten Hag's sacking in October, Ratcliffe was impressed by the Portuguese willingness to address the level of change desired. Ratcliffe's view is that previous managers have attempted a revolution but were hampered by a lack of support, and is determined there will be alignment from the top to the bottom on that matter. And this is what I've been wanting for such a long time. Even though Erik ten Hag did want to create a cultural shift, did want to change the standards, I never felt like he had the full backing completely across the club. And do not get me wrong, Erik ten Hag was not the right guy. Ahmad is an example of that. Ahmad is the biggest example of that. But I don't think any manager's ever had 100% backing, and it needs to happen. And I think Rashford being up for sale is proof that Amorim has got 100% backing on that. Anyway, get your thoughts in on Marcus Rashford. Would you sell him? I think the club would sell him in January if a club came in. I just don't know. I just don't see a club that's going to come in for him. I really don't, unless it's proper cut price. What would you sell Marcus Rashford for? Get the comments in down below. And would you sell him to a Premier League club? Because I see a lot of people saying Arsenal. I would be very uneasy to sell Rashford to Arsenal. But if they were the only club on the table, would you do it? Suman Duta says, many clubs can afford him, I just think none are willing to. Exactly. I'm not saying 365 grand a week. I'm not making that up. That's what's in the article. I don't know if that's true. I just know it's over 300 grand a week to people in the comments. Whatever it is, it's still a massive amount of money. But while you're getting your comments in on Marcus Rashford, a lot of people are talking about the amount of adverts that are on the show. I don't control that. I'm sorry if there's adverts. I don't control that. Sorry about that. Should Manchester United give Maguire a new contract? Yes or no? I'm going to put my vote in there now. And while I wait for your votes to come in, I'll tell you the exact situation with Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire's current deal expires at the end of the season, but Manchester United have an option to extend it by a further 12 months. What would I do if I was Manchester United? I would not give him a new contract. And I know that might be shocking to a lot of people, considering how well he performed yesterday and how well he has done since the captaincy was removed and given to Bruno Fernandes. I would not give him a new contract. The reason I would not give Harry Maguire a new contract isn't because of performance, because I think Harry Maguire yesterday, and honestly, ever since the captaincy was taken away from him, has been top draw. I think he's been very, very good. Very good. One of our best performing centre-backs. I think in a back three, he suits it superbly well. And yesterday was another example of a top performance from Harry Maguire. The reason I wouldn't give him a new contract is two things. Wage and age, well, actually three things, and injury. Harry Maguire's on quite a decent wage, if I'm not mistaken. I'd be very shocked if he's going to take a cut wage. He might do, but I'd be very shocked, and I wouldn't really want to offer him, is he on like 180 grand a week? Something like that. I wouldn't really want to offer that at 31 years of age, to be honest with you. Second of all, he is 31. He's not getting any younger. Although he's playing really well, it's probably the best he's ever played for Manchester United at this stage in his career. And Johnny Evans is an example of how well you can play as you get into the, twilight years of your career. The issue for me is injuries. This season, he's not been able to complete 2 back-to-back 90 minutes. He's had a lot of injuries in the last couple of years, Harry Maguire, a lot of injuries. And because he's not necessarily been a first teamer, he's not been as noticed as much, but he's been injured a lot. I don't really want to pay that amount of money to a 31-year-old that is going to get injured. And I doubt he's suddenly not going to become injury prone at 31. If anything, he's probably going to pick up more injuries as his body gets a bit older, because it takes you a longer amount of time to recover. That's why Johnny Evans gets injured a lot. So that's why I wouldn't do it. But I don't have anything negative to say about Harry Maguire's performances. I think they've been top. And I honestly give him so much respect for the way that he's handled himself, his mentality to come through them hard times and be a very good player for Manchester United, and I absolutely want to make the most out of him while he's here. And I would understand Manchester United triggering the 12-month extension on it and keeping him in for another year. I would understand that. But a complete new contract, I would say no. I'd rather just say, thank you so much for your contribution. You've been fantastic towards the end of your Manchester United career. Come through a lot of adversity. Always, one thing about Maguire, despite the fact he did have a very poor spell in his early years at Manchester United, he came through that. And throughout everything, he's always been professional. He's always been a professional player and conducted himself in the correct way, which is what the bare minimum that you ask for. So I'd rather just say thank you very much. We've had a bit of a tumultuous journey together, but you've come out the other side and you were fantastic in your later years. And we're going to part ways now, and we're going to go and invest into a younger centre-back to make up our depth. And, wish you the best for the rest of your career. That's what I would do. Manchester United might well give him a new contract because he is a model professional. He is an example to younger players. And he's probably a good person to have in the dressing room. But based off the injury record and the age, I would probably decide to part ways personally. What have you guys said in the comments? I've still not been able to view the poll. Sometimes it takes a while for me to come through. If anyone can tell me what the poll says on should Maguire get a new contract. Oh, it's 58% say no and the rest say yes. So it's very 50-50 in the chat. It's like 60-40. Okay, understood that. Harry Maguire did have a quote to say on his new contract. He said, listen, I haven't really thought about it. I've still got this year to go with an option in Manchester United's hands. But yes, all the signs are positive at the moment and the chat that I'm having is really positive. So that might be that Manchester United do offer Harry Maguire a new contract. He does work in an Amorim back three system. He's always thrived in a back three, and he was fantastic yesterday. I don't have an issue quality-wise of him staying. Quality-wise, I think as a squad centre-back, great. But it's just injury and age for me that puts me off a little bit, and what you would be paying for him. You've got Lisandro Martinez, you've got De Ligt, you've got Lenny Yoro. Ideally, you probably need one or two backup centre-backs. That would mean Lindelof go in, Maguire go in, getting a left-sided centre-back, getting a right-sided centre-back. Or do you just get rid of Lindelof, getting a left-sided centre-back and keep Maguire around, even though he does have them injury issues, because he is an experienced player that has that leadership and probably isn't going to play every game, but when he plays, you're going to get quality from him. Gives him less chance of getting injured. There's potential there, but my initial inclination would be to not give him the contract just purely due to the injuries and age and maybe looking towards the future. But his defensive stats yesterday versus Manchester City, 100% tackle win rate, 100% ground duels won, 5 interceptions, 3 clearances, 3 tackles attempted, 3 tackles won, 1 block. He was an absolute monster. And he was up there for man of the match for me. Fantastic yesterday from Harry Maguire. And that's an example that you can get through adversity if you have the right attitude and you have the right mentality. Space Oddie says, if we sell Lindelof, then Maguire would be a good backup for De Ligt and Martinez. Don't forget, Martinez is injury prone. We need a left-footed, left-sided centre-back, in my opinion, Space Oddie. I think you've got Martinez, De Ligt and Yoro. And then your backups, you'd say, Maguire and Lindelof, although Maguire would be playing over Yoro at this moment in time, probably just due to Yoro being embedded into the team and his age. But ideally, you would think Lindelof's going to go. And if Maguire goes, I would invest into a left-footed, left-sided centre-back to cover Lisandro Martinez, definitely. Because, Mazraoui can cover right-sided centre-back as well. We know how good he is there. I do think we need another left-footed, left-sided centre-back, just because Martinez does, he has had injuries in the past. Vinny Red 1 says, let's not play revisionism. Erik ten Hag was back, spent over 600 million, still unable to get results, played favourites, none of which started yesterday. Also, Ahmad treatment. I'm not doing the revisionism, Vinny. I will absolutely sit here and say, now, upon reflection, Erik ten Hag did need to go. And I do think his transfer business was poor. I do think the Ahmad treatment is just absolutely mind-boggling, but I don't think he got full power behind the scenes, and I'll stand by that. I don't think he got full power. Enjoy Writing says, yeah, trigger the extra year for Harry, that is all. That makes the most sense, probably. Butter says, good morning, Beth from America. Personally, I would give Maguire a new contract for the simple fact that he works hard. Regardless if he's in form or not, he turns up and I believe he will resurrect his career. At 31, he's not got a huge amount of time left, but I do absolutely agree with you on the fact that he works hard and he's an example and he's someone positive to have in the dressing room, and when he does play he's going to give you 100%, and based off how he's played in recent times he's going to give you a solid performance as well. At Kill Aravin says Maguire is decent, what we need is not decent. We need better than that. Suman done that one, and we have Jared Sleto. Welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Thank you very much for all the super chats coming in and everybody watching live. But yeah, that is the talk on Harry Maguire. Moving on to the next segment of the show, and it is about the leaks. Manchester United have launched an investigation into which player is leaking team news information. Both Ahmad and Alejandro Garnacho have been quizzed by Ruben Amorim as to whether they are responsible. Amorim is satisfied that neither Ahmad or Garnacho are directly involved in leaking, and that is from The Sun. So apparently Amorim has cleared Ahmad and Garnacho of leaking team news. So that's the news we can bring out on that. Ahmad and Garnacho have been cleared. One thing I would say is Luckhurst obviously leaked the correct team. Samuel Luckhurst from the MAN leaked the correct team 16 hours before. So his source obviously, was giving out the team, whoever his source will be. But the usual Twitter accounts that leaked the team, Amorim Ball, I don't think leaked the team yesterday. It might be because it was already out by Samuel Luckhurst very early, so there was no need to leak it. I don't know the details about it, but I would be very surprised if it was the same person leaking to Samuel Luckhurst as leaking to Amorim Ball on Twitter. I'd be very surprised if it was the same person. So I don't know if there's multiple players that are doing it or whatever's doing it. It might not even be players. Players will talk to family and friends. They might go and speak about it. But you would think if you were a player, you've probably been told to keep a lid on it by Ruben Amorim. But anyway, let's just see what happens with that. I think it's one of them. It's very, very hard to find out who did it. But according to The Sun, Ruben Amorim is satisfied that neither Ahmad or Garnacho are directly involved in leaking. Directly is an interesting word used there. I don't know. I don't want to second guess because I genuinely I have my own ideas and my own suspicions, but unless I had 100% proof and facts, I wouldn't put it out there because you don't want to add fuel to a fire that might not be 100% true. But that is the news on the leaks. Last thing I just wanted to quickly say before I finish up the show is the foundations are there for Ruben Amorim, and you could see that in the derby yesterday. The foundations are there. We may lack quality, but there is stuff to work with, and you can see Ruben Amorim ball is starting to develop. That is huge. The big thing under previous managers is style of play. We can see a style of play. We went toe-to-toe with City at the Etihad. That is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. And just to go again with the stats, tackles, Man United 24, City 14. Touches in the opposition box, 22 for United, 18 for City. Shots inside the box, 7 for United, 3 for City. Big chances created, 3 for Manchester United, 0 for City. Goals scored, 2 for Manchester United, 1 for City. Expected goals, 1.99 for United, 0.91 for City. That is huge. Absolutely huge. Even when we've beat City in the past, they've always come at us with wave after wave after wave of attack. We were getting peppered, and we were lucky to get a goal on the break and make the best out of counter-attacking situations. It wasn't a sustainable game model. What we saw yesterday is a sustainable game model, keeping the ball, creating patterns of play. Okay, yeah, the end product wasn't there a lot of the time. It wasn't. Dallow's crossing wasn't good enough. Certain final balls weren't good enough, and that chemistry in the final third needs to improve, and decision-making needs to improve, and quality needs to improve, but it's there. The foundations are there. And that is, the start of something. Also, Arteta still is yet to win at the Emirates. Not the Emirates, sorry. Arteta is still yet to win at the Etihad with Arsenal. Amorim doesn't his first out in there. I mean, there's levels to this game, everyone. Bruno Fernandes made 12 ball recoveries against Man City, twice as many as any other player on the pitch. My captain, leader. And Manuel Ugarte, I just think is another reason why Manchester United are starting to flourish in this Amorim system and starting to look a lot stronger. And I have, in the years previous, I cannot remember a time, apart from the FA Cup final, we did it with Mainu and Amrabat, I cannot remember a time that Manchester United had a better midfield than the opposition team in a Big Six game. In a Big Six game, can you remember a time when Manchester United, in a Big Six game, our midfield came out on top? Can you remember? Apart from the FA Cup final, because Amrabat and Mainu had that midfield on lock, I cannot remember a time. But Ugarte, Mainu and Bruno yesterday, I thought they were better than Manchester City's midfield at the Etihad. That is massive. In all of Erik ten Hag's time at Manchester United, he didn't win a game against the Big Six away from home. Amorim's done it against City at the Etihad in his first outing, and he's not done it by playing counter-attack, park the bus and then hit them on the break. He's done it by actually having possession, 50-50 possession, and creating chances. So there's good stuff. And do not get me wrong, the standards that we saw yesterday in that game, he's nowhere near where we want to be. It still wasn't a great performance. It still wasn't great on the eye. And there was tough points. There was tough watches at times. We've got a long way to go. That City team isn't, the City team that we've seen in previous times. They are going through a bad spell at the moment. But you've still got to give credit, because you've got to remember where we are. We went into that game 13th in the league. We're breaking every record in the wrong direction. This team hasn't been able to manage to really create a new manager bounce because it's just not got the quality that's needed. But yesterday, what you saw was a team playing together, a team spirit, camaraderie, and foundations in place, and proof that Amorim can set up a team to go toe to toe with one of the best teams in the league, and that's important. And just think about it, when he has more time to work with his team, more time on the training ground, he actually has a pre-season, he has transfer windows to get players in, he manages to shift players out. Things are only going to go up from here, hopefully. Anyway, thank you everybody for all the super chats coming in. And Joy Writing says, it's a good point about Arteta, Beth, thank you very much. Nomad Joe says, what happened to the tree? What has happened to the tree? It's over there. It's not on camera right now. Do you know what? He's had a lot of time on camera over the past 24 hours. He had a lot of celebrations after the Manchester derby. Might have gone out, had a few too many drinks. Not feeling himself on camera today. He just wants a bit of time off camera. We're allowing him to do it. He'll be back for the next show. And Random Clips, member for 15 months, thank you very much. Try with MS says, how about per game fee plus a small base salary for Maguire? How about a per game fee plus a small base salary for Maguire? Repeated yourself there. That's never going to happen. I get where you're coming from, but it's never going to happen. Vinny Red One says he would have got full power if he got results. That's a really good point. And thank you everyone for all of the chats coming in. But anyway, that is the show. Marcus Rashford, Ruben Amorim, hard-hitting stuff coming out. Ruben Amorim says Marcus Rashford should be sold for a culture change at Manchester United. Apparently there's been a little update as well from United Menace. I'm trying to see where this is coming from. Hold on. Trying to find it. Oh, here we go. So Mazraoui, who was spotted limping through the mix zone at the Etihad last night, we have got an injury update on him. The early indications are that Mazraoui is good. Further investigation needed for Mount. Too early to give an indication on the amount of time out that is needed. But Mazraoui is looking good. That is from United Menace, who usually is really good around injury stuff. So look, thank you, Mazraoui, for being okay, because we need him. I actually thought in that derby, he started off a little bit shaky, but I think he was just adjusting to wing back because he's been playing centre back. But once he got into the game, he was fantastic. That run that he did to get the ball back and then Højlund passed it to Bruno, and Bruno chipped Ederson, and he should have scored. If that would have been a goal, everyone would have been replaying that Mazraoui passage of playback. It was top. So, yeah, thank God Mazraoui looks like he's okay. Hit a like on the video, everyone. Really do appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Look how close we are to 2 million. It'd be fantastic to get there before 2025. But look, everyone, get your comments in down below. I look forward to hear all of your reactions to this news. Big news breaking on this Monday afternoon. And I have a feeling this isn't the end of the news that is going to come out. I think there's more to a lot of things that happened over the weekend, and we'll see what news comes out, and if anything comes out, we will react to it here on the United Stand. Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash your week, appreciate everything you've got in life, work hard, and get to the end of this week and think, you know what, I've absolutely smashed it. Start today on this Monday. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you on the next one.